What's up, everybody? I am your host, Dew Danky, and this is the Dew Danky Podcast, episode number 2. And on today's episode, we are going to be looking at the climate of sports media. And the title of this episode is going to be, Is Sports Media Becoming a Circus? And the reason why I asked that question is a couple of few takes recently that have circulated or been circulating through the internet, clips going around that I took some issue with. Particularly on First Take, the Anthony Edwards comments about the 90s era that we're going to dive into. Well, basically Anthony was saying only Jordan had skill back in that time during the 90s while he was playing, basically taking a shot at the pool of talent back in the day versus the pool of talent that we see now. His argument is that players now are more talented than players were back in the 90s era during the time when Jordan was playing. Competition wasn't as good as it is compared to today. We're going to also talk about Cameron's on First Take as well. He's been a new addition, the latest guest to bless the First Takes show. He gave a comment about James Harden analytically winning. So we're also going to dive into that as well. And last but not least, Jay Williams' take as far as SGA's flopping and OKC's flopping overall, but more specifically SGA, the way that he foul baits and falls all over the floors, trying to sell calls, over exaggerating the contact, different things of that nature. It was interesting the pushback that he received while making that claim, and we're going to be getting into that as well. So to first start off with the comments that Anthony Edwards made. Anthony Edwards is one of the best young players in today's game, shooting guard, drafted by Minnesota, went to the University of Georgia. Coming into the NBA, he was high flyer, but the mid-range, the jump shot, the things that he had to work on, and as he's been in the NBA year after year, he's gotten better, and most recently adding the three ball to his game, where he really doesn't have a weakness on offense, and he's a pretty good defender too. But the young guys could say some real egregious things when it comes to how they look at eras before them.
Oh, yo, let me tell y'all something, bro. 20 years ago, bro, you couldn't get to a triple step back.
No.
You hear what I'm saying to you? You couldn't get to a triple step back. And then if you shot that shit, it had to go in. You know why? Because we had efficiency back in the day, my dude, and it was so fucking hard. It was too physical. And guess what? The league had to come off of it for the flow of movement to be able to have scoring go up, which is why we like to sit here and watch kind of the rat race of the high-paced game, right? But, bro, let's not talk about the gamemanship, and let's not talk about the physicality of the game back then. Real shit.
Other NBA stars, Hall of Famers, and different noticeable names in said eras, younger players in this era overlooking the guys that came before them. He also made a statement basically saying he didn't really watch much of the Jordan's era, 90s era back in that time.
90s. Because we the Kobe era.
He also prefaced by saying he didn't watch back then, and he's also 23 years old. So, like, we got to take that into account.
Man. I mean, this is one of the most skilled players to ever play the game. I mean, you know, I think that was directed more toward the Jordan era.
Making an uninformed assumption based off of clips, hot takes from other pundits, media, journalists, analysts. Not sure where he got that from because there was a bunch of great players in the 90s era that played against Jordan. And some Hall of Famers in that list that I named as well that we can look at, see how silly that statement was that Anthony Edwards made. He's having a lot of success in the NBA right now. You know, he's talking this shit, but basically feeling like since he's reached a certain status in his NBA career right now, I mean, besides the Western Conference Finals appearance, regular season success, he hasn't really accomplished anything. Very arrogant for him to say such a thing, and while in the same breath acknowledging that he didn't watch or do his homework. I mean, KG was one of the most skilled players this league has ever seen, being a power forward, being able to anchor a defense and score the ball offensively. The passion that he played with, the extreme competitiveness, the grit. It was a different time back in the 90s. You couldn't, a lot of things that's going on in this league right now as far as basketball and the NBA, it wasn't like how it was back in that time. You actually had to earn your keep. 30-point scores and averaging almost 30 back in that time versus averaging 30 this time is two completely different things. 30 points is the new 20 points and 40 points is the new 30 points as far as in this style of NBA that's being played today, which is no hand checking. A lot of rules are set in place to aid offensive players and put defensive players at a disadvantage. The game is very spread out, a lot of up and down, quicker pace, high octane offenses. The 3-point shot has been overly implemented in the NBA. I mean, guys that are shooting threes now wouldn't have no business shooting threes back in that time during the 90s when Jordan was playing. So it's just interesting to me, the outlook from younger guys when they are talking about eras previously before them, basically showing a lack of respect, just blatant ignorance. And we got to call stuff out like that, which I'm glad that guys were speaking out, especially NBA greats and legends that we respect. Kevin Garnett's clip made First Take, and it was interesting because this is when Molly Karam was the moderator for First Take. So they played the clip, and Molly made a comment before they really started diving into it. It was a slick little comment. People probably ain't even really catch it like that because nobody on First Take actually confronted her about it after she said it, and they continued on.
KG and Paul Pierce right there. By the way, he only won one MVP.
They started discussing it, hearing what she said in real time, stopping her, checking her, like, wait, hold on. What did you just say? So how I took that was, you're saying that this man only had one MVP as if he doesn't have the legitimacy to speak on the talent level in the 90s compared to how it is now. Professional athletes that make it to the next level are a part of the 1% of all athletes trying to make it to the pros. So understanding how many people, athletes, men, women, are trying to make it to the highest level in whatever sport that they're playing, whether it be basketball, soccer, football, hockey, baseball, etc., etc. If you make it through, you are a part of an elite club, and that's just making it in. Succeeding once you make it to the next level is a whole different discussion. And for this woman to say that KG only had one MVP, let's not look at everything else that this man has done. NBA champion, all NBA teams, all NBA defensive teams. The big ticket. The big ticket. The younger people that may be watching this, just go to YouTube. If you got Chat GPT, any search engine out there, all you gotta do is search it. You know that he's well versed not only in the game but what he has done in his career to be able to speak on things like this. NBA fans and other NBA players listen because they have an immense amount of respect for him, and he is revered among his peers and people that watch the sport as well. So for Molly to say something like that, that shows me that she is just reading from a script and she doesn't really know as far as Kevin Garnett and the impact that he had on the game and everything that he accomplished. She wouldn't even made that comment. Only one MVP? Molly, no offense, but this is probably why you don't got a job now. Whatever other rumors are out there, whether it came down to her not getting enough money, whether it was a contractual dispute, because I know her and Jalen Rose were together. Something happened with that. She ended up getting on First Take. Some say that maybe something with her and Stephen A was going on. They were allegedly caught on the same island together. They were both away. You look at both social medias, there's similar images. It looks like the same place. Hey, listen, allegedly. Anytime this comes with businesses, we know that there's favors done and the way people get positions. I didn't think that Molly did that great of a job. Didn't really feel like she knew a lot about sports. She was just a pretty face up there that was trying to. to moderate, and nobody that was on that set for that segment about Ant making those comments about the 90s era and saying that Jordan was the only one with skill. Nobody said anything when she made that little slick comment because that was so disrespectful. You have to be the best player for that season in a group of elite players playing at the highest level. So if you are recognized as the MVP, the most valuable player, do you know how many greats and Hall of Famers that have played the game that haven't won MVP? He has an MVP and is a first ballot Hall of Famer and is an NBA champion and is looked at as one of the best power forwards to ever play the game. Kevin Garnett. I had to bring that up. That was egregious. We can't let shit like that rock. I'm sorry. I'm not surprised that Molly is out of a job now, because when you make certain statements like that, you look very foolish, and it takes away from the credibility of the show, in my opinion. Where you got people up there making comments, and then after the comment is made, you don't see any pushback. So Cameron, very successful artist, him and Mace have a podcast now called It Is What It Is. They doing their thing over there. They doing their numbers over there. So Cameron ended up being a guest on First Take. And they bring guests up all the time. He's more so giving a more raw, more barbershop talk kind of feel to First Take. During the Cleveland and New York series, Cameron made a statement about James Harden in the playoffs. We all know the history around James Harden postseason and playoff hasn't been that good. A lot of poor performances that's uncharacteristic of his regular season output. James Harden is a top 75 all-time player, Hall of Famer, with or without a ring, one of the greatest scorers this game has ever seen. Pretty much revamped the Euro step. Ginobili had it. And I think James Harden took it to the next level, making it a staple in the NBA. A lot of young players and the players that have been playing in the league really implement that in that game, the Euro step. He's famous for the step back. He patented the Euro and the step back. And he's done so many great things in the regular season. And he's even had some good postseason performances, some good playoff performances. But overall, looking at his postseason success or lack thereof, it is very glaring for him to be the great player that he is. I would kind of compare it to Lamar Jackson in the NFL. Great regular season performer, 2-time MVP. Harden is a one-time MVP. Amazing players in the regular season. But in the postseason, it becomes a different story with those guys. So I said all that to say, Cameron made a statement and said that James Harden is analytically winning.
Y'all are wild, and you and Jay Will. They actually won analytically. And that's how he's viewing it. He did his thing analytically. So James Harden, salute to you.
The topic of conversation was coming up where he was having multiple games of more turnovers than actual field goals made. In numerous games now. You can't ignore stuff like that, especially when you're that great of a player. We have to look at that and have an honest discussion about it. And I think it takes away from his overall career, especially if he ends up not winning one. I get that these sports shows can't just be about X's and O's, breaking down a game, whatever the sport is. So you have to add an entertainment aspect to it, which I understand that. So, I mean, it's cool. It's just something that I took issue with and that I wasn't really rocking with at all. I think he's more so trying to cape for James versus just keeping it real. And for you to make a statement that say he's analytically winning, like, that sounded crazy to me. Now that we got those two out the way, now we can move on to the Jay Williams comment about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA.
I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to push back on you, SA, here. When you talk about let's not act like other elite players do it like this. Who?
Haven't tried to.
Who do you see that flails?
Haven't tried to.
That flails his body the way he does.
Can I get
Throw
in
his
this?
head back.
I
All that-
Harden
There's
did
so
it for
many.
years.
Think about the thousands of camera images captured of him doing it like that.
How he manipulates the game and makes it tough on the refs to call the game honest. I never really paid too much attention to it until this postseason. SGA is really flopping all over the place. Like, it was bad. He is throwing himself all over the place, falling on jump shots, trying to sell a call. Flopping has gotten worse and worse. And now I think it's to a point where it is an issue. You guys are continuously complaining to the refs, crying, whining about calls, create contact, and how they sell contact. And I respect this game. Shea is one of the best players in this league. Offensively, he's dynamic, 3-level scorer. He's so great of a player that he does not have to play offense that way as far as how he tries to draw fouls. The whole team flops, but more specifically, Shea. It's so egregious with Shea. They start making parody videos about it. People are making fun of it. When people try to say that you're hating on somebody when it comes to sports and their favorite athletes, their favorite teams, anytime you give harsh criticism that's rooted in truth, they deflect and say that you're hating. Falling and flailing all over the ground after every drive to the basket, after a lot of jump shots that he's shooting that are closely contested. I don't know if I see anybody in the league doing it to the extent that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing it. Pushing off too. I know that pushing off to a certain extent without extending the full arm is legal. But when you get a guy like Jaylen Brown that brings up, hey, look at this clip and look at this clip. This is a clip of Jaylen Brown doing the exact same thing that Shai's doing. They're not calling it on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but they're calling it on Jaylen Brown. My only thing is, like, where was the lie at, though? Is he lying? Or is it just like the timing is off on it and y'all just focus so much on the timing aspect of it? Oh, well, you said that right after a playoff series loss, so now it doesn't have any validity towards it because of when it was said versus actually looking at what was said and breaking that down and saying, oh, well, maybe this is an issue. He does have the officials' favor and they are swallowing their whistle on a lot of those plays. And I think that that's fair to say. Jay Williams will get pushed back on First Take by Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith saying that all superstars flop, making a blanket generalization of a statement versus not looking at in which the manner that it's being done, how it looks. Is sports media becoming a circus, or is it a circus? And not all media is kind of losing its credibility, in my opinion. Players are very sensitive now. With the dynamic of social media being around, everybody is critiquing players, and you can mention them, you can send them messages. Social media has made athletes very, very sensitive, very, very defensive, and very, very emotionally responsive to the people critiquing their game now. At the same time, though, to be fair, it's a lot of hate and a lot of ridiculousness that comes with the comments. So I understand that part of it. But I feel like on a lot of these sports shows and debate shows, every time it comes down to have these discussions on national TV with a lot of these pundits and analysts, they always have to preface their statements by giving credit or running down accolades that they've accomplished before they actually give the statement. And that speaks to how sensitive these guys have become. With professional athletes having their own podcast and their own channels now to where they're able to respond back to a lot of these pundits and a lot of different media voices that cover sports. It is what it is, man. Can't be mad about that. It's the media guys that I respect have inspired me to just have a voice to speak on sports, more specifically basketball and football. Guys like Rich Eisen. I love Rich. He's been covering football for a very long time. Great personality. He knows how to implement the comedy with the real sports analysis, with the experience, storytelling. I like Mike Wilbon, Jay Williams, Shannon Sharp. He's definitely a game I respect now versus when he was on Undisputed. I like Shannon, Joe Johnson, Steve Smith Sr., his 89 podcast that he has, anything regarding the receivers, anything just football, period. Jake Ellenbogen, an independent content creator covering the Rams, and I believe he covers the Yankees as well. He's very in depth with his analysis, very in tune, speaks with clarity. We got Rashad McCants, his basketball knowledge and his real talk. He has a no-nonsense approach to a lot of the statements that he makes. He stands on what he believes in. So I like Shad, man. I like Rashad McCants. Charles Barkley, Hall of Famer, one of the best power forwards to ever touch a basketball. I also like Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes is an NFL analyst. I love Mina for her NFL takes. The way that she talks about the different nuances and details about offenses and defenses of certain players and certain schemes. So shout out to Mina. Dan Orlovsky, man, his insight and his knowledge of the game is kind of almost second to none. He covers the game very well. I like Dan, Booger McFarland, and Louis Riddick. Those two guys I respect a lot. Their NFL knowledge, being former players and covering the game. A lot of the guys that I've named have been former players. I really like that dynamic. JJ Redick. JJ Redick was on ESPN's First Take. Now that's a guy that gave pushback. He pushed back on Stephen A. and anybody else up there. Kendrick Perkins as well too. I have so much respect for JJ as an analyst breaking down the game. I'm extremely knowledgeable. One of the best three-point shooters that we've seen in recent memory. And he was not backing down against anybody, and I love that about JJ. Ticket TV, indie YouTuber / content creator that covers basketball. He has good basketball knowledge. He's a player that played overseas and made a pretty good living for himself. So I respect Ticket TV too. To wrap it up, the reason that this matters is because younger sports fans that watch these shows that's not going back to do their homework and see how great that these players were or wasn't there for certain events that took place in the sports world, it has to be some type of integrity. It could be entertaining. It could be full of personality. It could be everybody up there looking good, nice suit, nice tie, looking good. Yeah, that's great. But we gotta keep it objective, gotta keep the integrity level high, and gotta stick to the substance of what these topics are really about. And do not allow any wild takes without being met with any kind of pushback or being contested at all. That's insane. There's nothing wrong with accountability in sports. We need accountability across the board. And so we definitely need it in sports. Is sports media becoming a circus? Look at the guys that they're bringing up on these mainstream shows. Look at what they're saying. Look at the statements and hot takes, bold takes, analysis. Look at what's being said. And I'm talking about the casual watchers and the people that are running with whatever is being said on these shows and not going back to actually do the real homework or research and running with these narratives. I'll catch y'all on the next one.